Okay. Shalom, shalom, first and foremost. I want to start off by giving the higher praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders, sing honors to the apostles, preaching and teaching to us this word of truth and with sincerity as always. Of the great millstone and like-minded camps. So anyway, without any further ado, just going to get into this lesson here. Just going to go into some of the news that's going on. Some plagues the Lord has been setting, some uproars, all various kinds of news. Just going to go into that. To start this article here. And it's entitled here, Thousands of Chinese boats mass at sea, raising questions. This is from Yahoo News. Everyone's just speaking on the Russia and Iran. Iran and U.S. situation, but you can't forget about China right here. You gotta speak on China here as well, and the NATO, Ukraine, Russian war. You gotta keep your eye out for those as well, because that's all part of the Iran and Israeli war over there as well. These are all gonna, as you already know, these are all going to, or should know, us the prophets, we know, that all these things are going to connect with, they're all going to meet each other, crossroads soon. It's entitled The Simpsons Photo from December 25th, 2025. They said it was about 2,000 China boats. And then on January 11th, 2026, about 1,000 boats. Okay, so this was published February 13th, 2026. Yeah, so that was yesterday. So yeah. On January 11th, 2026, this is geometric formations of about 2,000 Chinese fishing boats on December 2025, and about 1,000 on January 11th, 2026. I'll read some of this. Thousands of Chinese fishing boats have been missing in geometric formations in the East China Sea, and coordinated actions that experts believe are part of Beijing's preparations for a potential, listen to this, regional crisis or conflict. Yep. So as you listen to that there, that's what that's going into there. Monitoring ship tracking data on Christmas Day, Jason Wong would tell something unusual was underway as fishing boats swarmed into two parallel inverted L's, each about 400 kilometers. He says something didn't look right to me because in nature very rarely do you see straight lines. Maritime and military experts told AFP the missing of Chinese fishing boats, the massing of Chinese fishing boats on December 25, northeast of Taiwan, was on a scale they had never seen before. Yep. That wasn't that long ago as well, by the way. So It says one says here last week, and Russia is involved, and they're gonna get more involved. They're still are involved. Iran and Israeli over there. Last week, around 1,200 boats massed in two parallel lines further east of the January and December events and held their positions for about 30 hours, Wang said. Yeah, because China, Taiwan, and Beijing will happen. That is going to happen one day. Or very soon. So they're still preparing for war over there. Here's this article from United24media.com. NATO chief says Ukraine's support will not falter despite Iran war. March 12th, so it's 2 days ago. Today's the 14th. 2026. So it says will not falter despite Iran war. This is the general commander of NATO's Allied Command operations in Europe. Says it speaks during a press conference on the violation of Polish airspace by Russian drones. It says recently stated that the delivery of military equipment to Ukraine is moving forward. Despite ongoing military operations in Iran. Yeah, so while that's going on in Iran over there, which is they're still striking each other, shooting rockets at each other. NATO, this commander here is talking about he's staying the course, helping out Ukraine. The general provided these assurances during the testimony on March 12th. This was recent. We continue to provide, he said, we continue to provide weapons to Ukraine. I will provide specific details on this in a closed session later. This is the senator raised concerns that the need for Patriot interceptors in the Middle East and rising oil prices could potentially benefit Vladimir Putin during Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Regarding the economic impact, the general noted that the effect of higher oil prices depends on the duration of the military actions against Iran. He stated that both President Donald Trump and the Pentagon are aware of the situation and are managing the risks. And that's all bullshit. They ain't managing anything. They want this war to happen. And it's a staged war, and they want it to happen to kill more and more of you people, whom they deem as cattle or insects, worthy to be stepped upon. Calling one of the wicked elites. European leaders have also weighed in on the shifting global focus. European Council President Antonio Costa suggested that Russia currently benefits from the situation in the Middle East due to rising energy costs. So see how you see that's proving Russia is involved right there once again as well, because to what this simple ass Israelite said, woman said, says she doesn't see. I don't see. She said, I don't see Russia getting involved. That's stupid as a comment. They already are involved. They've already been involved before Iran hit them strikes on the 28th. Russia currently benefits from the situation in the Middle East, so this is going to help Russia. Russia's still involved once again due to rising energy costs and a potential decrease in international attention toward Ukraine. Yeah, if anything, that's actually help that Iran is Israel situation. If you're paying attention to this what this article was saying, and you really don't know what geopolitical updates are, you would know better than to make a simple ass statement like that. Especially if you don't have the scriptures. Ezekiel 38 specifically clarifies to you that Rush is gonna be a guard unto them. They're gonna be the ones they're the strong man of that group, of that alliance, BRICS alliance. They're the ones who shoot first and leave last. Once again, Russia currently benefits from the situation in the Middle East due to rising energy costs and potential decrease in international attention toward Ukraine. Costa emphasized that Moscow utilized these additional resources to fund its military operations while simultaneously attempting to regain lost revenue by offering to stabilize the market in exchange for lifting sanctions. Once again, you got dozens of Chinese boats. This one here, Finland is ready for Russia. Is anyone else? Now let me get the scripture because that's going into Joel 3 and 9 to 10. These nations are preparing for war. NATO's still preparing for war. They're gonna even prepare more for war because Russia's gonna soon step into in Ukraine territory, and now then they're gonna have to. There is gonna be eventually be ground warfare. Their guns at each other's faces, shooting at each other. Not just this is nothing right now. This is just them shooting rockets, little rockets at each other here and there, hitting little spots. But after that, it's gonna hit, as we're saying, we keep saying, it's gonna escalate to ground troops, them having to mobilize the swords, foot boots on the ground, and after that, man, nuclear. Which when that happens, we're gonna be very. I'm gonna be and brothers like-minded as well are gonna be very excited, and we're gonna fear and tremble, but we're going to be rejoicing at the same time. As the scriptures say, rejoice with fear and trembling. This is Joel 3, 9 to 10. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for war. Rouse the warriors. Let all the fighting men draw near and attack. And that's what that article's going into. That's what Taiwan there, China right there is going into. Setting up their boats. Still near Taiwan. Finland preparing for war. Going back to this article, it says, got the photo there of these the Finnish army. That's the NATO army. Those are Edomites right there. November 2025. This is face camouflage they're using face cam. Oh, that's what Gad did. The war paint during an anti-tank warfare exercise in northern Finland. November last year. Title is Finland is ready for Russia as anyone else. March 12th, 2026. This is where the west ends. Drive northeast from the Lapland village of Sala for 20 minutes and Route 82 runs into a closed chain link gate. Don't touch warns a sign in Finnish. Beyond up a gentle slope looms Russia. Finns used to drive access here to fill up on half-price gasoline. That was before Russia started pushing migrants across the two countries' roughly 830-mile border as human weapons in a hybrid war, and then attacked Ukraine. Sealed in 2023, the crossing was deserted when I stopped there on a bright winter morning, just a lonely stretch of road through Finland's endless boreal forest, cut short by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's newest Arctic frontier with its oldest adversary. Okay, so Finland is right touching right next to Russia right there. Once again, that's why it said, they said where Finland is where the West ends. I guess that's that's what that comes from. Its strategic importance has grown since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The real joke is that the village shouldn't even be here. The original town sat just east of that gate, lost when Stalin grabbed about a tenth of Finland after the Soviet invasion and subsequent campaigns of World War II. A lifetime later, but only one lifetime, Moscow once again preys upon a smaller neighborhood. Russian President Vladimir Putin's renewed invasion of Ukraine in 2022 exposed the fragility of an European peace predicated on post-Cold War assumptions. Meanwhile, the second coming of President Donald Trump, whose persistent NATO skepticism metastasized into an unprecedented threat to seize Greenland from U.S. ally Denmark, has blown up whatever was left of the certitudes of international rules and U.S. protection. Yeah, so there you have it. Now I'm gonna look this up as well, because I know Germany still has the best technology. This Germany's mirrors turns against Trump over war in Iran. Last week, the chancellor told the U.S. president he was fully aligned on toppling the regime in Tehran, but his tone on the war is now soaring sharply. It's the German Chancellor Merz. It says only last week, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was on the same page as U.S. President DJT over the goals of the Iran war. He is no longer sounding so enthusiastic. Europe's most powerful leader went out on a limb to stick close to Washington in the early days of the conflict, while his peers such as Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and French President Emmanuel Macron condemned the U.S.-Israeli strikes as illegal. Yes, so that just shows you how NATO ain't even agreeing with this war, which is going to lead to the Revelation 17 and 16. That's what that shows here, Revelation 17 and 16. The beast and the 10 horns that you saw, the NATO will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Hey, Khan, so yeah, because there's nothing but abominations here in America. These fucking dykes, I'm tired of seeing these fucking dykes, man. So one on the screen just popped up. A lot of these wicked ass little Negroes out here The nigga woman loves a lot of dykes and lesbian culture and all within our mixed and the spreading of our nation here. So we're cursed, and so this has to happen. We need to check the news and continue to prophesy and pray out the downfall for this bitch. Thousands of Chinese boats massed at the sea. Germany's going against Trump's war with Iran, Ukraine, saying they're going to continue to support. Though the NATO chief said that and they also mentioned how Moscow is how that the war is helping Russia with the Ukraine war as well, because now they got to focus more attention as well on another threat, Iran. This article here. So this is just showing you Russia is still a threat. If you are paying attention, not like that simple nigga woman talking about she doesn't see Russia getting involved. Russia is already fucking involved, man. Get that through your fucking head. And stop saying stupid shit that doesn't even make sense. Like that's the stupid ass woman for you, man. They say shit and think shit that doesn't even make sense. One of the most stupidest creatures on earth is the woman, especially the black woman, the black bitch. But this is from Al Jazeera. Especially when it comes to war. You women don't know anything about war, man. You can't even pick up a gun, so don't even speak on the war and prophecies of the scriptures that pertain onto the prophetic scriptures. This is Al Jazeera. From AlJazeera.com, it says, Europe, the title of this one reads, Europe lacks coordination as Russia prepares for a war with NATO. Experts. Analysts tell Al Jazeera that Europe lacks an assertive response to Russia's suspected operations. These are from analyst experts that we'll look this word up, experts, just to show you what they about to speak, because these are experts. Experts are individuals with specialized knowledge, skill, and experience, often taking 10 to 15 years to develop, who provide authority on specific subjects. Yeah. And us, the prophets, starting from our elders on down, we're just experts when it comes to these. What's going to happen, because the Lord has revealed his secrets. It's proceeding to Amos 3 unto his servants, the prophets. And the more years you have in this thing, the more research you as well do with, along with that, having those secrets revealed to you, you become a more authority. Like these experts here, they're about to speak on it. If I go back to the article here, it says lacks coordination. They say Europe lacks coordination. They're saying NATO is lacking coordination as Russia prepares for war. Russia prepares for war. Once again, we just got Joel 3, 9-10. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare for war. Wake up, rouse the warriors, or wake up the mighty man. Let all the men in war draw near and attack. Let them come up. Let the weaklings say, I am strong. They're saying they're no longer letting America bully them. They are taking necessary precautions, and making moves to. Iran's been preparing for this war, as well as, once again, because these elites been ordering them to prepare for this war. And ultimately, your elites don't even know. They're just following the instruction to their downfall. Through the spirit. But moving on, this is some of this article says. The title again, the experts are saying, analysts are saying Europe ain't ready for Russia, as Russia's preparing for a war with them, to invade them, essentially. attack them, which NATO was technically already attacked. And the brother mentioned how at first this war started with just Israel and Iran, Russia, but now it's done involved into 26 other nations getting involved. So I'm gonna ask Google as well, just to double check on that. And sometimes Google goes off, AI as well, they go off. And then you got other news outlets that say one thing, and then the other news media most will say have less information, miss other things than other ones. As of March 14, 2026, at least 14 to 16 nations have been directly involved in or impacted by the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel. Gulf states, regional neighbors, Turkey, it's a NATO nation. Turkey, does NATO deployed F-16s to protect the NATO interests and intercepted drones near Incirlik Air Base. Cyprus. Iranian drones have reportedly targeted British military bases on the island. European allies, the UK, France, and Italy have discussed or provided proportionate military defensive measures to protect regional interests. And so NATO's already involved as well. So Russia's involved. They're involved. They're all getting involved. This article says Europe is unprepared to counteract a new chapter of Russian military and intelligence activities in the Baltic and North Seas. Experts have told Al Jazeera. At the time, they said a growing rift between European and United States intelligence services is leaving the continents unsupported. Last week's European Union summit was a case in point. Belgium obstructed the plan to use Russian money to finance Ukraine's defense. And turbocharged Europe's defense industry. Russia's shadow fleets suspected of espionage and sabotage operations was not mentioned in the summit conclusions. Europe is no more ready today to face Russia's military advances than it was in 1939, as Nazi troops were at the door, said Joseph Fitzanakis, assistant director at the Center for Applied Intelligence in Coastal Carolina University, one of a handful of U.S. institutions teaching intelligence and national security. Frontline states like Finland, Poland, and the Baltics have no illusions about what is coming. He told Al Jazeera, however, I fear that plagued by internal divisions and victimized by relentless Russian disinformation operations, Western European populations are not even moderately awake to the dangers that threaten their security. Since 2022, Russian intelligence has been accused of sabotage and disinformation campaigns designed to orient and divide. Yeah, and really they also ain't talking about how. I'll read a bit more of this. It says period of emergency. Those alleged Russian activities appeared in the more overt phase on September 10, when 2 dozen Russian Geran-2 drones strayed into NATO airspace, testing Polish air defenses. During the preceding 3.5 years of war in Ukraine, only 3 drones had strayed into Poland. European alarm was confirmed 9 days later when 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets entered Estonian airspace over the Gulf of Finland for 12 minutes. Italian F-35s stationed in Estonia scrambled to intercept them. Then on September 21st, Germany scrambled 2 Eurofighters to intercept the Russian reconnaissance aircraft flying without a flight plan or radio contact. Yeah, so you got the point. This is the point here. Russian military is actively preparing for a war with NATO. Russian intelligence services have been issuing warnings since January 2024 that a NATO-Russian war could become a reality in 5 to 8 years. Yeah, and they said that, and analysts and experts said that China may invade Taiwan by, I think they said 2028. So that would kind of fit in line with Russia. That would fit right in line. It will fit right in line with Russia, a NATO-Russian war. 5 to 8 years. That was back in 2024. They said in 5 to 8 years, Russia may invade. Oh, Russia. Yeah, but we know Russia will invade NATO. We must not sit back and assume that a possible Russian attack will not come until 2029 at the earliest, he told lawmakers, saying Europe faced a new quality of confrontation. Like the Russian intelligence community, the Russian military is actively preparing. Like the Russian intelligence, the Russian military is actively preparing. So the Russian intelligence, Russian military is preparing for a war with NATO. In recent weeks, the Kremlin has rejected accusations that Russia is behind drone incursions while accusing Europe of stoking hysteria. It says the U.S. information was involved in target selection, timing, and route planning to evade Russian air defenses, but the quality of that cooperation is breaking down. It says so that basically it says this American intelligence services are being systematically defamed by an utterly dysfunctional political elite, which is using them as political pawns while refusing to prioritize the Russian threat. This is going into how basically they're divided. The U.S. and NATO is divided, and they're not focused on being prepared enough for Russia as Russia continues to fight in this Russia-Ukraine war. So I googled AI Russia NATO Ukraine war news, and this is what it says here. As of mid-March 2026, the Russian-Ukraine war and its impact on NATO have entered a complex new phase, significantly influenced by a widening conflict in the Middle East and shifting political dynamics in the West. conflict status March 2026. Stalemate and grinding advances. Neither side has a realistic prospect of a quick total victory. While Ukraine has seen some success in the north and south, Russia continues a slow grinding advance in the Donetsk region, specifically targeting infrastructure in Sumy, Kharkov, and Donetsk. Intense aerial warfare. Russia recently unleashed massive drone and missile strikes targeting Ukraine defense. So they're still going at it. Russia's still going at it. It says once again, Russia recently unleashed massive drone and missile strikes targeting Ukrainian defense, industry sites, and energy infrastructure, injuring dozens in response. NATO has scrambled fighter jets as these long-range strikes occurred near alliance borders. Ukraine counter strikes. Ukraine has used Storm Shadow missiles to hit a missile plant in the Russian border region. Moscow has accused the UK of direct involvement in these strikes. NATO and Western relations. Troop deployment debates. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte announced that a coalition of the willing, potentially led by the Great Britain and France, could deploy troops to Ukraine after a peace agreement is reached. Russia has warned that any Western troops on the ground will be considered legitimate military targets. Shift in NATO strategy. For the first time, Ukraine military trainers are helping Germany prepare for a potential Russian attack on NATO by 2029, a role reversal from earlier years when Western troops trained Ukrainians. Sanctions and oil revenue. A major point of tension has emerged regarding a recent decision to allow some Russian oil revenue to flow to stabilize energy markets. European and NATO leaders are lobbying the White House to reverse this, fearing it provides Putin the funds to sustain the invasion. Regional security threats. Border military buildup. Lithuanian and Swedish intelligence services warn that Russia is expanding military units on the NATO border. Reports suggest Russia could be ready for a wide-scale conventional conflict with NATO within 6 years if current sanctions are lifted or the Ukraine war winds down. So, it's Ezekiel 38 once again, and right here, I got this one from Reuters. U.S. State Department okays potential sale of rocket systems to Sweden. The U.S. State Department said on Tuesday it had approved the potential sale of M142 high-mobility artillery rocket systems and related equipment to Sweden. Lockheed Martin. Yeah, that's Sweden preparing for war with NATO. Germany. This is Germany. Google Germany military news. Germany is another NATO nation. Germany is rapidly rearming, aiming to build Europe's strongest conventional military by 2029, with a dramatically increased defense budget and the plans for up to 200 160,000 active duty soldiers. This shift, accelerated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, focuses on bolstering NATO's eastern flank, boosting defense production, and potentially reintroducing conscription. Ready for 2029, Germany aims to be fully prepared for defensive war by 2029, a goal reinforced by NATO threat assessments and major defense industry backing. The exercises, the Bund, however you say that, were recently conducted medic, however you say that, were 2026, one of its largest medical service exercises to test casualty management in a large-scale NATO defense scenario. Defense spending. Germany is spending aggressively on new technologies, including combat drones and the Arrow 3 missile defense system. So I'm gonna Google, does NATO believe Russia will invade by 2030? Let's see this. Yes, top NATO officials and Western intelligence agencies have warned that Russia could be capable of attacking a NATO member state by 2030, with some estimates citing a risk as early as 2029 due to accelerated rearmament. This concern drives call for increased defense spending, aiming for 5% of the GDP among allies to deter a resurgent Russia. Timeline concerns. The NATO officials, include Secretary General Marco Rutte, have indicated the potential 5-year window for a possible Russian attack, emphasizing that a peace deal in Ukraine might only speed up Russia's rearmaments. Preparedness actions. In response to these risks, NATO is focusing on massive rearmaments to strengthen collective defense, ensuring the deterrence efforts stay ahead of Russia's accelerated production capabilities. Yeah, this was on December 11th, 2025. NATO chief. Never mind. Or this was on June 9th, 2025. Secretary General, it says Russia could be ready to attack NATO within 5 years, says Secretary General Marco Rutte. And I want to get this because basically they're not telling you how it is. I mean, how U.S. is literally also gaining losses. In this video I'm about to get here. So you're gonna listen to this and listen to this for a second. Like that fucking Edomite was saying. Israel is being destroyed.
Registration. Now this.
And media is hiding it. This is redacted here.
Is the reason a lot of us voted against the Biden administration and the Kamala Harris campaign, because the Biden administration had floated doing this for Russia. How the F did we get here now? Can you tell us about this report?
It's dangerous, and the NDAA is notorious because it's a must-pass bill. They will slip some of the worst language in there. If you remember going back, 15 or 20 years, the things that they put in the NDAA. Well, this is a terrible thing because it will automatically register young men between the ages of 18 and 26 for the draft, for the selective service. And so what it does, it creates a database of these people. And there's no longer any question of being able to make decisions on whether you want to register or not, and whether a war is unpopular, whether a war is unconstitutional, which this war is very, very obviously unconstitutional. You're going to be forced now to be in a situation where you will be automatically registered for the draft. And a lot of people are salivating at the idea of starting a draft, of sharing the burden. The problem with this, as Dr. Paul says, is that the presumption is that the government owns you, that owns your body, that you are a slave. And that just simply isn't the case. If we were attacked, which I don't think we have been, maybe the colonel is a better historian than me, since 1812 by foreigners on our own soil, unless you count 9/11, which is another story. I mean, it's not something that's going to happen, but if it does happen again, I'm thoroughly confident in our young men and women that they will defend their own country.
Right. This is not the existential threat to the United States, Colonel, right? As you've pointed out, it comes from Mexico, it comes across our southern border. It does not come from Iran, to say the least.
No, Dan's 100% on target, and I'm very confident that if you called for a draft on the assumption that the draft was for people to exclusively defend the United States here at home, you would have no difficulty. But we all know that's not what the draft is all about. But I think it's important to point something out. We don't have an army to send. Our army is too small. It's been cut back repeatedly. We have put our money into very exotic weapons, and particularly into this very large fleet, surface fleet, that has very limited utility in the modern world today. It's wonderful to watch jets take off and land, but naval power like that isn't going to win any wars. It's not even able to defend itself very effectively against the kinds of threats that we're seeing. So we don't have an army large enough. Secondly, the army, if we were to push it, and it would have to land somewhere. That means it has to come ashore in the Middle East. Wherever it comes ashore, whether it's on the coast of Syria, Israel, or perhaps Baluchistan in southern Iran, terrible place to do it. But if it happens, no one is going to be fooled in Tehran. Everyone will watch it on, real-time television from satellite-based reconnaissance. And very shortly, as soon as you've assembled most of your force, most of the ships are there disgorging equipment, you're going to be hit with precision-guided ballistic missiles and drones. We're not prepared to deal with that. We have not got an army right now that could cope with the kind of threat environment that you see in eastern Ukraine. And we're not going to have that for some time. So the whole idea of a ground war is preposterous.
Can you go back to Karg again, the island? We featured it yesterday on the show, and we did a bit of a deep dive on how strategically important that little island is off the coast of Iran. 90% of the oil flows through Iran from that island into those cargo shipping oil containers and so forth to flow out. There is talk, multiple Trump administration officials saying that they want to capture that island. Maybe you could just go a little deeper into what a crazy move that would be, and how in the world would the United States even plan to secure such an island?
Well, the first thing is that much of the oil and fuel that comes out of Karg Island goes to India and China and Japan and South Korea. So if you're really interested in harming those countries, by all means, destroy Karg Island. But taking it and holding it without getting into a major fight, in other words, you've got to move ground force somehow or another into the region. They have to cross the water. They have to get to the island to hold it. Well, good luck. I think that's going to be extremely dangerous and very difficult to do. But the important thing for everybody to remember is that if we do this, and it's probably not going to work, the island could easily be destroyed. And then Iran has no incentive of any kind to let oil infrastructure in the Persian Gulf survive anywhere. Refineries, drilling rigs, storage tanks, doesn't make any difference. All of those ports will be smashed. And I also think it's important to remember that the Israelis struck a desalinization plant in Iran. Now, that's a very dangerous thing to do. Iran is not that dependent on those desalination plants, but the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia are extremely dependent on them. I hope the Iranians do not respond by destroying any of those plants, because that would end the Gulf states. You're talking about little places where large numbers of people, densely populated, are all dependent on water from those plants. That would cause mass death and certainly the destruction of the economy.
I want to ask you both how are we supposed to feel about this? Because if you've studied this conflict, you know that is our government that started this on false pretenses. And then when you see these embarrassments militarily, it feels like we effed around and found out. It feels like just desserts. Our leaders deserve this, but our soldiers don't. And so how are we supposed to handle this? How do you guys view it? I'll start with you, Dan.
Well, what I'm worried about the most right now is something domestically. I mean, I don't want to sound conspiratorial, but I'm worried about a false flag. I don't know if you've seen this, but the FBI apparently has been warning police departments in California that Iran may have launched attack drones off the West Coast into the U.S. Now, to me at least, this.
You heard that? You listened to that? They even tell you right there. He mentioned something. He mentioned that America really doesn't have that many troops, soldiers. It's been up and down for a bit, and they don't have enough troops on the ground to even deploy like that. And plus, how America's been spending so much on expensive equipment and weapons. Some of them on aircraft carriers is not even useful. Ain't that useful? They ain't that useful like that. But I mentioned how Iran has hypersonic missiles that cost way less of a fraction of what U.S. makes theirs for, and the U.S. only has a few of those. That's already a bad decision from my U.S.'s part. They mentioning how the government done told California police to be warned of a splinter cell attack on California, Western California. And then you got the Strait of Hormuz. I got a video I want to play on that. It's just so much with Iran. That's the situation with Iran that I have. You also have millions of rallying as well over there in Iran right now. It's uproars of the people. You had a couple of earthquakes. You had a tornado hit here in Michigan and damaging winds. It's place in the Lord as well as signs of well flooding over there in Hawaii going on right now. Got a famine going on in Gaza. Homelessness happening, hundreds of homelessness happening in Nigeria. Sandstorm hits the Gaza Strip there. Lord willing, I'll speak on those more later as well. You got a fuel costs soar in Pakistan due to this war as well. And here in this video, North Korea.
And meanwhile, the United States and South Korea are in the middle of a...
North Korea launches 10 ballistic missiles near Japan and South Korea amid the joint drills.
Joint military drill, and North Korea is not taking it lightly. Earlier in the day, Seoul's northern neighbor fired a round of 10 ballistic missiles towards the East Sea. North Korea's missile launch was an apparent flexing of muscles against the South Korean US joint military exercise. According to South Korean and the Japanese militaries, the missiles were launched from North Korea's west coast. Japan estimates that the missiles reached a maximum altitude of 80 kilometers and flew approximately 340 kilometers before landing near the east coast of the Korean peninsula and outside Tokyo's exclusive economic zone. The South Korean
Yeah, and if we can't forget about North Korea here, they're gonna get involved. Shit, they already are involved. Like even better, they already technically are involved, man. Shooting those missiles, ballistic missiles, near Japan. They didn't shoot it at Japan, but near Japan, and that just shows you how when China does invade, they're still gonna have a North Korea to give them fire support, rocket support, military.
and US militaries have been staging joint river crossing drills in the border county of Yeoncheon as part of their annual key springtime exercise. The field training coincided with North Korea firing ballistic missiles earlier in the day.
Yeah, and then Trump is doing a horrible job. I mean, we're happy that these things are happening because they gotta happen, but yeah, Trump is doing a horrible job. It says U.S. moves THAAD South Korea on edge. This is why is America removing its THAAD missiles shield from South Korea, and that just may be why these nations are gonna betray America, because me personally, I think at this point it's safe to say that these elites want America to be destroyed as well, and that's, well, obviously, because I know it's in Revelation 17 and 16, but so it's gonna happen. So that being said, they're telling Trump to do these horrible decisions, make these stupid decisions, because on purpose, because really if it was up to Trump and Esau actually was ruling and making decisions, America in its prime done defeated Russia before. They could do it. They could have done it again, but because that's not the will of Yahweh Bashim Yashai, ultimately, these elites are giving Trump his orders to make these terrible decisions, and they've been giving all your presidents these scripts to follow. So America's in. That's hence why America's in the such weak position it is in. It's all gonna be to fulfill prophecy. Yeah, that leads me to, as well, going back to the Strait of Hormuz being closed. That continues to be closed. I heard how that's going to really ruin this economy. It's already bad, but it's going to ruin it even more. This is Isaiah 19 and verse 1, actually 19 and verse 4. And the Egyptians will I give over, that's the us Americans today, so-called Americans today. The Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord. So we're giving this cruel Lord, he's as our Lord. And a fierce king shall rule over them. A Trump of being a fierce king. The laws he's making, the decisions he's making, the whole Greenland situation, the whole wanting to take Venezuela, already taken Venezuela. That whole saint talk, the whole saint rhetoric of everything is gonna go good. We're going good right now. All he's doing is blaming things on Biden and then telling people, calling Joe Biden stupid, and then talking about how what he's doing and how, and then making up lies to say he's doing it. He's got, we already got them. We already got the spies. We're watching them, and then just to make the people feel good. But then the shit really doesn't come to pass. Like the good shit that he's saying, which is just because he's just lying, that doesn't even come to pass. He mentioned how he's gonna send out stimulus checks again, but then that never even happens. And then he's already taking your people's SNAP benefits, Social Security benefits. The jobs market taking the last month. They said, or by the end of the year, they said they added 100,000 jobs, but then by the end of this year, they took down about 100,000 jobs as well. So ain't that a cruel Lord? That's a cruel Lord right there. Anybody who still support any Edomite out there still about Trump, they're really stupid. They're really docile and don't know what's going to. What Trump is actually doing. They don't see that. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, says the Lord of hosts. And then you jump on down. That's why it says in 14, the Lord hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof. That perverse spirit is going into them elites, man, who's in the background, telling them what to do, because if they don't do what they tell them, they're essentially fucked. They're going to be taken out. This is Revelation 16. Hence the three unclean frogs, the three unclean spirits that go out to deceive the nations, preparing for the battle Armageddon, and that links right with the Lord's hand is in the king's heart. He turneth it whithersoever he will. So really, they think they're controlling these nations, the elites do, but the Lord has his hand on their hearts, their thoughts. Revelation 16 and verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out his bowl upon the great river Euphrates, and the waters thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs. When you go into the frogs, that goes back to the plagues. One of the plagues the Lord sent was a plague of frogs. Just like these wicked elites are essentially, they're like a plague. They represent the plague. A nation can represent, the nation of Edom is likened unto a plague that takes peace from the earth. In Revelation, the 6th chapter, around the 4th or 3rd verse, the red horse. Then you got the pale horse, and who's in charge of pushing out these diseases that you ain't even heard about years since the time of history started. These elites are. So hence why they're likened here unto the three unclean frogs, three unclean spirits. Unclean spirits goes into the left-handed magic they worship, and then the frogs goes into these plagues that they start. Because ain't that a saying? Ain't that a saying that of those in the know? Be quote when we say bankers' wars. All the wars are bankers' wars. Wars is a plague. Hence why they're likened to frogs here. Come out of the mouth of the dragon. The dragon represents power, strength, that's the kingdom. And out of the mouth of the beast represents the kingdom, military, power, strength. And out of the mouth of the false prophet they're representing their left-handed magic. Worship, that they worship. For they are the spirits of devils. Devil means deceive, to deceive. And don't they go out and deceive people? They're making you people think that Iran president actually got killed. I personally don't believe he got killed. I believe he's hiding under some bunker or something, but it's possible he was killed. But I mean, y'all also thought that Maduro actually got captured and he's somewhere in some prison right now. He was just an actor. Maduro was just an actor, and he's probably in Cuba right now or somewhere else, some other state, in some of the skies or something. I mean, y'all thought, people also thought Epstein actually killed himself and is in prison right now. He's still alive. He's still somewhere. For all we know, Michael Jackson ain't really even dead. He's probably, doesn't matter. But for they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth into the kings of the earth of the whole world. They think XX, even on the lower level, they think some of these celebrities who die, they actually think they're dead, but they're not even dead. In some cases, they do get killed. They get knocked out. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, the left-handed miracles, the left-hand magic, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Yahweh Almighty. That's what this is going to all lead to. Going back to this, why is America removing its basically defense shield from South Korea? And you see the similar thing with NATO happening. So this could be the catalyst to why these nations are going to eventually betray America, because America's just going to care about itself. It's like that friend who says he's got your back, but then he's looks like he's bitching up basically, and then only cares for his own interest. When that happens, you basically you leave that nigga alone. Now you may, if the enemy decides to get an alliance with you, you attack him. That's what ends up happening. You'll end up seeing who your real friends are, and then, or who can you benefit more from than yourself, and then betray that betrayer. Yeah.
For almost a decade, a quiet farming village in South Korea held one of the most powerful missile shields in the world. The system was called THAAD. It is one of America's most powerful missile defense systems. It arrived quietly in South Korea in 2017, but its message was loud. If North Korea's Kim Jong-un fired a missile, America and South Korea would shoot it down. Now suddenly that shield is going away. Reports say it is being dismantled and shipped to West Asia. It comes as North Korea is testing missiles again, which raises a big question. Is South Korea suddenly more vulnerable? And is North Korea preparing to test that weakness? Here's our report.
The year was 2017. The quiet town of Songju County woke up one morning to something unusual. Convoys of camouflaged trucks rolled in. They were carrying the THAAD battery. Locals protested. They feared their village would now become the first target if war broke out. But South Korea and the United States insisted it was necessary, because just across the border, North Korea was rapidly building nuclear missiles, and THAAD was designed for exactly that scenario. The THAAD stands for Terminal High Altitude Area Defense. Think of THAAD as a mid-air sniper. When an enemy launches a ballistic missile, THAAD tracks it with an extremely powerful radar. Then it fires an interceptor. But here's the twist. The interceptor has no explosive warhead. Instead, it simply slams into the missile at incredible speed. Engineers call it hit to kill. The system can destroy missiles 40 to 150 kilometers above Earth. Each THAAD battery carries 48 interceptors and can protect an entire region. In short, it's one of America's most advanced missile shields.
Pyongyang launches 10 ballistic missiles. So this is an hour ago. It's a bit recent.
Now, South Korea and Japan were quick to slam North Korea. South Korea warned its military is ready to respond overwhelmingly to any provocation, while Japan said North Korea's actions undermine regional peace and constitute a flagrant violation of the UN Security Council resolutions.
Yeah, because that's basically they shot 10 missiles near the island of Japan, South Korea, because they were holding South Korea U.S. military joint drills.
Response, I issued instructions through my secretary to make every effort to gather and analyze information.
I'm gonna go back to this redacted here. Israel is being destroyed, and media is hiding it.
Drones off the west coast into the U.S. Now, to me at least, this is, as we see things falling apart, it becomes very obvious, regardless of what Hegseth tells us and what Trump tells us, it's very obvious that Iran has not been degraded. Next phase is false flags. The next phase is to
Iran has not been degraded. Because if they've been degraded, they still have a false flag invasion.
get people on board with this. So I think this is something to definitely keep track of, because if something like this happens, you better say goodbye to any of our civil liberties, even our ability to go on the redacted. It'll be gone.
Yeah, Colonel. I mean, Dan's right, and I've been long. I fear false flags because you don't want to bring them up, you don't want to say it, but Israel loves false flags. They have a long history of it. Just look at the USS Liberty. I mean, look at the Lavon affair in Egypt, trying to drag us into a war. So it's one of Israel's favorite pastimes is false flag attacks. They're doing it right now in Azerbaijan. I wouldn't be surprised. Of course, they're reporting of attacks into Turkey, also trying to make it look like Iranian attacks. All of that. So Dan's right. On United States soil, is that something you're concerned about?
Well, first, let's be clear. Nobody is going to stop me from talking to Natalie. I'm sorry, Cliff. Forget it. I will always show up to talk to Natalie, even half dead. So
That's nice.
I don't really place too much credence in that, because my information tells me that the Iranian government has specifically instructed anyone that they're in contact with in the Western Hemisphere absolutely not to harm the United States. They understand that that would be a gift to Israel.
Wow.
And they're not interested in doing that. So I think your false flag analysis is sadly plausible and by no means impossible. It has to be taken seriously. But I think in the long run, it probably won't occur. The problem is, what about Americans? What are they thinking? Are they paying attention finally? Now, in Europe, the prices of oil, electricity, everything else have gone up 70, 100%. Same thing for the most part in Asia. We need to make sure Americans understand the consequences of our actions for people that we like, for our allies. And then we really need to ask the president and the people in his administration to stop the inflammatory language. Stop saying the kinds of things that Mr. Netanyahu said. People ultimately take you at your word. Mr. Netanyahu, Mr. Ben-Gvir, and his friends in the cabinet have called the people in their region animals, subhumans, inferior. Eventually, everybody figures it out. We got it. We know. We believe you. And when that happens, you're finished. We don't want to go down that road. And we got to be very careful, because ultimately, when this war ends, we really want to live with everybody in the region.
Well, that's a news update. Now I want to tell you about today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is a company working on something that actually sounds like science fiction, but it's very beautiful. And what makes Xanadu do to increase the power of that system. That's a very different approach. And if it works, it could be a major leap forward for humanity. They also already have real technology in the field as we speak. Quantum acquisition, their ticker symbol.
I kind of got this other clip I'm gonna play.
and
This one
confirms our
titled, "It's over." It came out 3 days ago, March 10th. It's over for the U.S. economy if the Strait of Hormuz stays closed.
sources on this. So why did it take a little news show like our little show here at Redacted to report this information? Like, why wasn't Fox News reporting this information? The
That's
Pentagon,
weird.
I know it's really weird. Why is the mainstream media silent on this? So the Pentagon finally comes out and actually admits to this. If the number was this high, why did the American people hear so little about it until now? That's a great question. Well, now look at this. Sorry, I'm just going to pull my notes here.
Well, I guess Fox News likes to support the troops until they get hurt.
So Reuters comes out and reports this. Exclusive. As many as 150 U.S. troops wounded so far in Iran war. They just published this today, this morning. March 10th. That's remarkable. Exclusive. Just curious how that's an exclusive when we reported it yesterday. Whatever. Hey, Reuters, bite me. Anyway, this war is clearly not winding down, no matter what the messaging says. President Trump is saying the war could end very soon, but Iran says talks with the United States are off the table for now, that Tehran is prepared to keep striking as long as it takes, and they're vowing an eye for an eye. So what does an eye for an eye actually mean? Well, that's a great question. Does it mean, you killed our leader, we kill yours? Does it mean, hey, you killed all these girls who were the daughters of members of the Iranian Navy at a girls' school? Do we also do that to you? Like, what does actually an eye for an eye actually mean?
Does it mean we took out your water infrastructures, or you took out ours? So we do that?
Right.
Your gas infrastructure, civilian infrastructure, that's a war crime, but we did it.
Your oil infrastructure, we do that? Like, what exactly does that look like? Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz is getting worse by the minute. U.S. intelligence tracking Iranian mine-laying threats now as Gulf energy infrastructure there is taking a major hit with about 1.9 million barrels per day of refining capacity across Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. All down. CBS now says shipping through the Strait of Hormuz has ground to a virtual halt. Nothing getting through. That's of just a few minutes ago. And Israel's hammering Beirut's southern suburbs in Lebanon. So they've essentially invaded Lebanon. It's a shitstorm. And then there's the neocon political class in Washington saying the quiet part out loud. Senator Lindsey Graham, your favorite warmonger, is now openly talking about, going back to South Carolina to tell the sons and daughters in South Carolina, you got to send your loved ones to the Middle East. That's what I'm doing here in South Carolina. I got to tell them to go fight in the Middle East. And he's calling on other Middle East countries that have been sitting on the fence that we've supported over the years as allies. Get off the fence. Go bomb Iran. Help out with Iran. And oh, by the way, Spain, we're pissed off at you because you don't want us using your air bases or airspace to bomb Iran. Listen.
Up to our allies, step up. Get our air bases out of Spain. They're not reliable. Move all those airplanes to a country that would let us use them when we're threatened by a regime like Iran. To our friends in Spain, man, you've lost your way. I don't want to do business with you anymore. I want our air bases out of Spain into a country that will let us use them. To our Arab friends, I've tried to help you construct a new Mideast. You need to up your game here. I can't go to South Carolina and say we're fighting and you won't publicly fight. What you're doing behind the scenes, that has to stop. The double.
So yeah, what they're saying basically is the Pentagon has acknowledged about 140 wounded U.S. troops, confirming previous reports about a host that mainstream media was allegedly ignoring. Yeah, they ignore a lot of the casualties the U.S. is receiving from Iran. Larry Johnson notes that Iran has shut down the movement of oil and liquid natural gas, affecting 25 to 30% of global supplies. India and other nations are heavily impacted by the lack of fuel flow. Lindsey Graham has publicly calling on allies to bomb Iran and discusses reckless plans within the Trump administration to seize Gregg Island, a vital piece of Iranian oil infrastructure, which Johnson warns would be a disastrous move due to Iranian drone capabilities.
Dealing of the Arab world when it
So this is the U.S. crumbling. Piece by piece, it's falling down.
comes to this stuff needs to end. I go back to South Carolina. I'm asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Mideast. What I want you to do in the Mideast, to our friends in Saudi Arabia and other places, step forward and say, this is my fight too. I join America. I'm publicly involved in bringing this regime down. If you don't, you're making a great mistake, and you're going to cut off the ability to have a better.
Once again, going into the downfall of America. Isaiah 47 and 6. I was angry with my own people. They had belonged to me as my special people, but I punished them like ordinary people. I gave you the power to hurt them, and you were not kind to them. You were very cruel to old people. You boasted, I will rule over other nations, or I will rule other nations as a queen forever. But you did not think about what you were doing. You did not think about what happened in the end. So listen to me, Babylon. You love to enjoy expensive things. It's talking about America, modern day Babylon. You think that you are strong and safe. You say to yourself, here I am. There is nobody as good as I am. I will never be alone as a widow. I will never lose my children. And America's children today is Israelites and everybody who lives here. The populace of America. So this is America falling down piece by piece. This is Jeremiah 49. For why do you boast of your valleys, so fruitful, unfaithful daughter Ammon? You trust in your riches and say, who will attack me? The spirit America is in. Is this really what I wanted? Down in verse 10 in Jeremiah 49 and 10. But I will strip Esau bare, I will uncover his hiding place. The Lord is stripping Esau, America, of its power, its strength it used to have, so that he cannot conceal himself. His armed men are destroyed, and also his allies and neighbors. NATO right now is looking weak, even though they are somewhat still preparing and recognize that there will be. Russia is preparing for a ground invasion by 2029 on NATO territory. Even with that, though, they're still looking weak. Their military moves they're doing with this Iran situation is looking bad. Ron Long was speaking on that as well, how they're just looking terrible because they're just hitting mock-up targets. They've been hitting nothing, thinking those are targets. So a lot of the things they're saying they hit on Iran is also false. And they're not mentioning how Iran is fucking up their economy supply, but essentially by, his armed men are destroyed. It's going to be his Edom's, America's allies, and also his allies and neighbors. So there is no one to say, leave your fatherless children, I will keep them alive. Your widows too can depend on me. Yeah, their allies can't even help America. America cannot help its allies. 50. Now I will make you small among the nations. The Lord's showing how small America is by now. Despised by mankind and despised by people. Even the Edomites are waking up and saying, basically, essentially, fuck America. The terror you inspire and the pride of your heart have deceived you. Yep. America's golden age, the Desert Storm, World War II, Vietnam War, you who live in the clefts of the rocks, who occupy the heights of the hill, though you build your nest as high as the eagles, from there I will bring you down, declares Yahweh. And who's going to do it? Ultimately, Yahweh. That's what those redacted ain't going to say. That's what the naked economist ain't going to say. Your other news outlets, or Doomsday Bob ain't going to say. Is there a podcast called Doomsday Bob? Doomsday Bob or Rick the Prepper ain't gonna say. Or that other nigga, Angry Joe. Edom will become an object of horror. All who pass by will be applauded and will scoff because of all its wounds. Yeah, all the casualties America's gonna have on this side, that side, due to the war. Due to their enemies being stronger, having better equipment, being better prepared. Ultimately, because these elites are planning this as well, but it's ultimately the Lord. Lord planned it years ago, and they're just fulfilling the instructions once again. 17 Jeremiah 49. Edom will become an object of horror. All who pass by will be applauded and will scoff because of all its wounds. Yeah, because of this, they're gonna be like, wow, this was America. This used to be this, that. They're even saying that already. They're already saying that. One example, they're already saying that with the fast food and with the cost of living and how and the jobs and how America how it used to be able to find a job here, or even with the relationships, you used to be able to find a wife here, a better woman here, back in the time when shit was less polluted because America's polluted. Micah 2:10, the rising and part of the saint is not our rest. As Sodom and Gomorrah were overthrown along with the neighboring towns, this is how the Lord is going to destroy America with fire. It says the Lord, and so no one will live there, no people will dwell in it. All America is going to be destroyed. And this is going back to Isaiah 47. This point has been made basically. 7. You boast that will rule other nations as queen forever, but you did not think about what you were doing. You did not think about what would happen in the end. Your presidents, their wicked oppression upon other nations, and thieving, robbing, murder. 8. So listen to me, Babylon, you who love to enjoy expensive things. You think that you are strong and safe. You say to yourself, here I am. There is nobody as good as I am. That's the pride of America these average American has, or at least used to have, and still do have, even though the Lord's taking their shit and destroying their shit by at this point. These Americans are still proud, and that's just how America is, because it's spiritual, because that's really what represents. It's really representative of what America is, how the people is. The Lord has to destroy this city because it's proud, just as Sodom and Gomorrah was. People forgot about that, how the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because of their homosexuality and their pride. The Lord destroyed Nineveh because of their pride and their idolatrous ways, and their pride and boast and their military might, and then their money, gold and silver, their trade, their resources. This prime example as well. Nebuchadnezzar, Babylon. That's why he got that dreams and visions from the Lord about how these heathen kingdoms were going to be destroyed. America's that last part of that statue there. Part of that's a feet, part of clay, part of iron. 9. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment. Once again, the missiles. This is how the Lord is going to break that statue, throw that rock on that feet of clay, feet of iron. Through the missiles, through the Hawashai, through the nuclear silos, 200 million missiles, spoken of in Revelation 9 to 9th chapter. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, and one day the loss of children and the widowhood, they shall come upon, because America's going to lose all its people. People are money. That's what makes it a country, people. Workers and kings and rulers and senators, governors, and stuff like that. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries, the witchcraft, the left-handed magic and you see every day here in America, a vibration. A low vibration you see every day here. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of sorceries, for the great abundance of thine enchantments. Yeah, all that witchcraft and 666 Baphomet stuff they worship in America. That started in America. The founding fathers all worshipped the Baphomet. The Freemasons, KKK was an organization founded by that founded America. Once again, that oppression. So that, I mean, that's the point. I got a bit more here. And 12, stand now of thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. So they're going to continue to turn to these idols and see if that will gain them the victory, but it is not. Especially these average day people, peons, who aren't up there on a level, who don't know. Thou art reared in the multitude of thy counsels. Let neither the astrologers and stargazers and monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. All that commerce, America's big and important goods, and right now that shit is being shut down. If that continues, this economy is really gonna go horrible. They shall wander everyone to his quarter, none shall save thee. Kind of that. Yeah, no one's gonna save America because it's doomed for destruction as prophesied. So with that, shalom. Hopefully, Lord willing, this was edifying. And about